Well, hi, my friends. I don't know, have you missed me? I really missed you. I really seriously did, um, because it's been a while. So, anyway, I have been thinking long and hard about how to start the Romans for you and how to talk about the history of the Romans and a little bit about China and the Huns. Well, although I want you to read China and the Huns on your own, yeah, because I have to talk about something that the book does not talk about, right? And you will see in this session what that is. Okay, my friends? I'm going to talk about deleted histories, right? Yeah, on purpose. Deleted histories that are deleted from our collective memory on purpose. Yeah, um, in 21st century, right? So, okay, so if you look at your book, my friends, this is how the chapter on the Romans and the Chinese begins, right? We are given this story, yeah, that according to Chinese sources, in the year 166 Common Era, yeah, we are jumping way forward from the Achaemenids, right? 166 Common Era. Remember, the Achaemenids were from 550 to 330, right? So now we are 166 CE. And according to Chinese sources, our book informs us, a group of travelers who identified themselves as delegates from Andun, the king of distant Dahin, yeah, arrived at the court of the Chinese Emperor Huan, one of the Han rulers, right? The Huns are basically, we're talking about, right, from like, the first decades of the first millennium, right, to 300s, i.e., the first 3 centuries of Common Era, the Han Empire, right? So, okay, so a group of delegates, right, travelers, go to Emperor Huan, the emperor of the Huns, right, the Chinese Huns, right, the Han dynasty, and they say that they're coming from Andun, the Chinese source tells us they're coming from Andun, the king of distant Dakin, right, the king as ambassador to China, right? So who was Andun, right? We are told the Andun, right, was Marcus Aurelius, right? Andun, Aurelius, a little bit, it's in the same category, yeah? Uh, well, Marcus Aurelius Antoninus, right? I'm sorry. So Andun Antoninus, right? Okay, my friends. So he's the emperor of Rome, right? So and then you look at the map that we are provided, right? In I think it's a map that we were provided um, in the book as well, but I'm not sure about it. Well, the Han Chinese are on the east, of course, East Asia, and the Romans by 166 CE. You see where the Romans are, right? Okay, so here begins the chapter. This is how the chapter begins. We'll get to the rest of the story, right? Soon. Now, so then we're given the chronology, right? We're given the chronology of Rome and China, right? And we're told that, okay, remember the Indo-European migrations? Yes, we remember, right? And then some of them come to Greek islands and Greek mainland, and some of them go to Italy, right? So the first settlements, right, on the site of Rome, we are told takes place at 1000 BCE, right? 500 years after that, right, you have the establishment of the Republic, right? And we go forward to through the history of Rome, right? 500 BCE, right, to 300 BCE, right? The Romans take control of Italy, right? But then that's not the end of it, right? Rome expands through its wars with, lo and behold, Carthage. We're going to talk about that, right? And then wars against Hellenistic kingdoms. Oh well, who are they, right? It's getting complicated. Yeah, you guys. So and there's 100 BCE, Augustus and the establishment of the Principate, right? Okay, fine. And then 45 to 58 BCE, Paul and the spread of Christianity, right? So then from Rome, right, all the way in the center of Mediterranean, right? We remember where Italy is, right? To all of a sudden we're jumping to all the way to East Asia, right? Where we are told that, hey, listen to this. Around the time that you have the establishment of the Republic in Rome, you have the establishment of the warring states in China. Of course, the history of China goes to millennia in millennia BC, right? And you're reading that through your textbook, right? And so we get to 400, around 500 BCE, and we have the beginning of the warring states in China, right? And then we come down by the time we get to 200, right? Well, a little bit before that, we have Qin Emperor unites Eastern China, right? And then 206 BCE, the Huns come, right? Yeah, the Huns appear on the scene, right? And then by 150 BCE, you have the Han Empire sort of expanding, right? And by 23 CE, you have the transfer of the capital, and so on and so forth. Okay, all right. So that's Rome and East Asia. Okay. But we're missing some stories here. Part of the stories that we're missing, you will be getting in your textbook. I am certain, right? It's the story of Alexander the Great, right, or Alexander the Accursed, depending on your point of view, right? And then there is the story of an empire, right, that ruled, oh, okay, let me see, about 470 years, close to 500 years, somewhere in Asia, and of course there is Africa, and we will see that, in there is conquest after the Achaemenid conquest in Egypt, in Africa, right? You have the Alexandrian conquest, as we will see, and you get the Hellenistic kingdoms. Okay, have I confused you enough? All right, now let's see. Let us start by recapitulating where we left off, right, my friends? So we left off at the Achaemenid Empire, right? The greatest empire that the world had seen up to that point after the Assyrian Empire, right? And we see the growth of the empire. Okay, I need to. Okay, here we go. We see the growth of this is the empire green under Cyrus, right? We see under Cambyses, right? Egypt is conquered, and remember the whole story about the and well, then we get Darius, right? And Achaemenids expand their empire, and we get the story of the uh, canal that Darius built, right? So that ultimately, this is what we get, right, of the extent of the Achaemenid Empire. I want you to pay attention, my friends, to the fact that when we are talking about the Achaemenid Empire in this case here, right? We are talking about an empire, and if you look at this map here, you were talking about an empire that has brought three river valley civilizations, basically, right? Yeah, this is the Indus Valley civilization, right? This is the Tigris and Euphrates, and this is the Nile, right? Excuse me, please forgive me. So Achaemenid Empire, right, is an empire that has brought three river valley civilizations under its control, and has established control, right, over, as you can see here, right, over the Black Sea, over the Black Sea, over the Eastern Mediterranean, over the Red Sea, over the Persian Gulf, right? And we will see the in our subsequent lectures that they have also established themselves, and we saw that, right, actually in the previous lectures, in the Arabian Seas, and they have naval power and whatnot. We will talk about that. I forget now whether we have talked about it or not, but we will talk about it when we get to the trade networks. But before we get to all of that, I want you to keep in mind also the following, right? That the Achaemenids, right? The Achaemenids sort of brought not only most of the resources of Western Asia under their control, but also that of Africa, parts of Africa. Remember, Africa is always connected. I mean, Egypt in Africa is always connected to Nubia, and then sub-Saharan Africa, right? So the Achaemenids bring all of this under their control, right? They do that for 200 years, for 2 centuries, right? They are taxing the populations under their control, and one of the theories is that they are by having the extent that they had, the you know the realm, the great realm under their control, and by centralizing all the resources, right, in the Achaemenid Empire, and basically in their capitals, right, in Persepolis, in Susa, in Ecbatana, and whatnot, right, that they depleted the currency, right, the silver currency, and also to a certain extent the gold currency of various regions under their control, right? And and um, and they became weak, right? So now, meanwhile, right around during the reign of the Achaemenids, right, 350, Achaemenids are not out of the picture yet, right? They go out of the picture in 330, right, BCE. Meanwhile, in Macedonia, right, this is the after the after the peace of the king was established, right, between the Greeks and the Spartans, the Greeks and the Spartans, right, in the Peloponnesian Wars by the Persian king, right. After all of that, right, you have in Macedonia you know upper parts of the Greek peninsula, right, northern parts of the Greek, you have Philip of Macedon ruling, right, and Philip of Macedon, right, is basically begins to carve a kingdom for himself, right? And I'm sure that your book covers Alexander and the Hellenistic empires enough, so I will just have something to say briefly about them, right? So Philip of Macedon already is becoming aggressive towards the towards the mainland Greece and the Greek islands and whatnot, right? These are its dependent territories at any rate, right? And so on and so forth, right? So Philip of Macedon is enlarging a kingdom in the Greek peninsula, right? But the son of Philip of Macedon, right? The son of Philip of Macedon, whose teacher, right? Whose teacher was actually Aristotle, right? The student of Plato, who was a student of Socrates, if you remember, right? He had he was being graced, Alexander being graced by his father Philip, right, at a time where the Persian Empire, right, was still the Persian Empire, right. He is being raised here, right, Alexander. The Persian Empire is still Persian Empire. His father knows about the piece of the king, knows about, they have already had access to their histories, to their philosophers, and the Greek histories and Greek philosophers, including Aristotle, right? And Aristotle teaches Alexander, besides all the sciences and whatnot, teaches him about the Persians, right, and the Persian Empire, and so on and so forth, right. So from early on, we are told that Alexander the Great, whose statue you see here, right, Alexander the Great, who is known to some populations, actually to the who comes to be known to the Persian population, right, to the Persian Empire as Alexander the Accursed, right. He comes on the scene and he decides to recreate the Achaemenid Empire. And in fact, that is exactly what he does. He sets out in 336 BCE, right? And this is the itinerary of his movements, right? He starts from Asia Minor, of course, right? Goes down the coast of Eastern Mediterranean, right? Goes into Egypt, right? And takes care of Egypt, and then goes towards, right? I mean, conquers Egypt, and then it goes towards, right, the Persian Empire. And this is the way it takes to the Persian Empire. And at the Battle of Gaugamela, right, that takes place in 330 BCE, yeah, 331 BCE, right? He defeats the Achaemenids, and in fact, follows follows the Persian king, and you don't see it on this map. He follows the Persian king. His generals actually follow the Persian king, the last Persian king, through Media, but then Alexander and his army are supposed to have taken over, yeah, this route, right? The way that you see the arrows go, right? And gone to Persepolis, right? And burned Persepolis to the ground, right? And you saw the story of that in your video, Persepolis, right? And then goes again up to Ecbatana. Lo and behold, it goes to Parthia. It goes on sort of a reconnaissance trip in Parthia, in this area, right? And then it goes into Bactria, right? And from southeastern Persia, right, he goes to Central Asia, and then, right, and he goes up, right, and then he goes down to India, right, and he returns from Persepolis to Susa, right, and then ultimately he dies in Babylonia at a very young age, right? He starts 336, right? He conquers basically the Achaemenid Empire from the Achaemenids, right? That's what he does, right? He dies shortly after he finishes his conquests, right? So after his death, right? After Alexander's death, his kingdom, right? His recreation of the Achaemenid kingdom, right, splits amongst his generals, right? There are three major areas that appear on the wake of Alexander's death, right? One is the Antigonids, right? The kingdom of Antigonids, I wish you to see, right, in Anatolia. And lo and behold, right, this is 310 BCE, Antigonian kingdom has control of Eastern Mediterranean, right? Okay, that's Antigonian kingdom. Then we see that there is the kingdom of Seleucus, right? The Seleucid Empire, right? Which is actually, yes, the Seleucid Empire. This is wrong, my friends. Well, that doesn't belong to here. It's, yeah, okay. It's two different maps, right, my friends, right? This is the Antigonid Empire. This is the Seleucid Empire, Antigonid Empire. Well, this is a better map, my friends. Okay, never mind that. This is the Ptolemaic Antigonid and Seleucid Empire. But I want you to keep in mind, right? I want you to keep in mind that later on the Seleucids come and take over the Syrian parts of the Antigonids Empire, and at some point the Ptolemies come and take over the Eastern Mediterranean, right? So what I mean to tell you, my friends, right, is that all of these entities, political entities, right, those who were in Egypt, right, naturally always look to Eastern Mediterranean, and those who were in Anatolia naturally always look to Eastern Mediterranean and Egypt, right? This was, remember, this was always from Hittites to the Assyrians and so on, to the Egyptians, right? This was always the intention of powers as far as Eastern Mediterranean is concerned, right? So ultimately, right, and this is what we get. You get the Ptolemaic Empire, right? You get the Seleucid Empire, and the Antigonids that have divided to various territories. And I want you to keep in mind this little area here, Parthia. This is the same area where Alexander, Parthia here, the same area where Alexander had gone on to a excursion, so to speak, right? Okay, so Achaemenids are out of the picture. Achaemenids go out of the picture. Comes Alexander, recreates Achaemenids' empire, dies in a short period, right? Basically after, in 2 decades or so, right? Through his conquest, after the conquest, right? He dies, and then his kingdoms are divided into 3 kingdoms, right? One of the important ones is the kingdom of Seleucids, right? The Seleucid Empire, right? And Ptolemaic Empire remains in Egypt, right? And these become the Hellenistic kingdoms, right? So, this is bringing us, right? We started with the Achaemenids, right? Now going back to Rome, we started with the Achaemenids. You see that 500 BCE, Rome has just begun to establish the Republic, right? And 500 BCE, around there, right, is the period of warring states, right? Right, and okay, well, this is the East Asia, right? The Hun Empire afterwards. And then here we get in West Asia and Africa, we get Alexander, Hellenistic kingdoms, and the little bitty thing called the Parthian Empire, right? Okay, so you remember now, going back to Rome, we come to 100 BCE, right? We come to 100 CE. Let's see, where are we going? Okay, we come to the time that Christianity is spreading, right? In the Roman Empire, right? And then this is the chronology that we get, right? This is the main chronology that we get when we are dealing with this period of 200 BCE at least, right? Rome up until, to 200 CE, right? Okay. Um, what else here? What else is happening here, right? Now, okay, here we come to what I will tell you is the business of deleting 470 years of history, because our book starts by asking us that the two empires, right, two major empires were ruling the world, right, circa 100 something CE, right, when the Romans sent a delegation to the Han Empire, right? So, and the book asks us, right, how come, right, these empires did not have any effect of it on each other, right? They came to know each other, Romans came to know the Chinese really, really late, right? They have nothing in common with each other except that they begin to get more centralized, right? As empires, right? Otherwise, they don't even affect each other, right? So why? The question is, right, my friends? The question is, if that's the case, why present the world in this manner, right? If the Chinese and the Parthians are not connected to each other, right? Why begin by talking about the connection, which there was none, right, between the Chinese and the Roman Empire? So what is the missing link here? What is the link that covers 470 years of history, and it is nowhere to be found in your textbooks? Well, that is the Parthian Empire, right? That's the Parthian Empire that develops, during the Hellenistic period, from this little bit during the Seleucid period, and from this little bit of territory, right, to this period where it covers basically the Iranian plateau, but it is connected to Indo-Parthia, and we're not going to get into it that much. Okay, don't get confused, my friends. It will all become very clear for you, I promise you. Okay, the first step to learning is actually confusion, right? Okay, so and then at its height, right, it covers this part of the world. It covers Mesopotamia. It covers the Indus Valley, right? It goes deep into Anatolia, and so on and so forth, and it controls the Persian Gulf, right? And that is the Parthian Empire, the missing link between the Romans, the Chinese, and the Parthians. In fact, there is so clear a link between the Romans and the Parthians and the Chinese and the Parthians. The Parthians are such clear link between the Romans and the Chinese that your mind sort of begins to blow. How come an empire of the duration of 500 years, right? There is nothing to be said in it, right? I don't know, in your sixth volume, whether they have covered it or not, right? But, in volumes, it's in the sixth volume, they don't cover it even. I remember now. Okay, my friends, right? And then you say, why, right? Why is such the case, right? Okay, I'm not going to answer the question for you now. I will answer it when we get to the to discussing the Parthian Empire, right? With you, but going back, right, to the chronology of Rome, right? So you remember we said that 1000 BCE, right? There are all these tribes and whatnot in Italy, right? And somewhere around 753, right? The inhabitants of the seven hills, right, that are around Rome come together and they establish the city of Rome, and we're going to see how that goes, right? And they establish a monarchy, right? And this monarchy lives for 200 years, right? Yeah. After the monarchy, in the Roman Empire, we are dealing with 500 years of the Republic. A republic during which actually the empire is built, right? So you have the monarchy, right? And we will get to the establishment, foundation of Rome, and the establishment of the monarchy in a second. Then you have the republic, right? That goes from 509 to 58 BCE, right? And then you have the empire, right? You have the empire that goes from 27th CE to 27 BCE to 380 CE. Forgive me, that is a typo. 27 BCE to 380 CE, right? Anno Domino, right? If you prefer it that way, right? And you get the chronology of Rome, right? Foundation of Rome, monarchy, monarchy 200 years, republic 500 years, right? And then empire, right? Basically say 350 years for empire, right? And here is what you get of the chronology of Rome. Roman kings, Roman Republic, right? Basically 2 centuries, give and take, 5 centuries, give and take, right? And 4.5 centuries, not 3.5, 4.5 centuries for the empire, right, my friends? So, and this is what the Roman Empire will come to look like in 117 CE, right, during the Roman Empire period. But as we will see, most of the territories were actually garnered through the Republic. And I'm sorry about the typo again there. Okay, my friends. And then at some point, and we will get to that also, in 395, right, the Roman Empire splits, right? We get a Western Roman Empire and then Eastern Roman Empire, right, which becomes Byzantium, right? And the Western Roman Empire falls with the Germanic invasions. And Eastern Roman Empire continues as Byzantium until 1453, a long period. Now, our book poses this question to come to the conclusion that, in fact, we don't know why the Romans and the Chinese developed the way they did and what effect, yeah, and since there was no direct contact between the Roman and Chinese Empire. So the missing link, right? Han Dynasty, Roman Empire, right? The missing link, the Parthians, right? And where is the Parthian Empire? Yeah, all of Mesopotamia, into Asia Minor, right? Into Sogdiana, and Indus Valley, right? Okay. But when we talk about the fact that it is impossible, literally impossible, to forget about the Parthians, and yet our book does, is the following: the Romans and the Parthians were the major sort of enemies of the Romans were the Parthians, actually. Yeah? Not on the conquest that they made, right? They didn't come across, major. Well, we will talk about that. We shouldn't be so. No, in the West, as we will see, their major enemies were the Carthaginians. The Carthaginians. In the East, their major enemy were the Parthian Empire. For one thing, they constantly struggled over Armenia, right? Because of the riches of Armenia and because of the resources of Armenia, right? And here is the global map, right? This is the Parthian Empire, right? The Kushan Empire, Indo-Parthian Empire, Roman Empire, Han Empire, right? And yeah, the rest of the world, right? Now, this is the story circa 50 CE, right? And it is impossible for our textbook, for the good scholars that have written our textbook, it is impossible for the 6 editors that edited this textbook not to realize that the Romans might not have known the Chinese, but the Parthians knew them very well. The Parthians knew them very well because it was actually the Parthians, right, that had established the Silk Route with the Romans. It was because of the Silk Route that the Romans ultimately, and the goods that were coming through the Parthian Empire, through the Chinese Empire, to the Roman Empire, that the Romans ultimately even figured out that there is the Chinese Empire, and finally sent their emissaries there. Don't forget the Greeks didn't know about the Chinese, right? They knew about half of India also, right? So our good scholars ignored the relationship of Parthia with the Roman Empire. Totally ignored, right? A very episode of 500 years or like 400 years of history at least, right? Or 300 years of history, let's say. We'll see why. Yeah? And in the East, to forget the history of Parthia and the Han Empire, right? Okay. So, why did two empires develop like this? They don't have any answer for it, right? Um, okay. Now, so this is the introduction to our study of Rome, my friends. I will carry on our story in the next session. Yes, my friends. I bid you farewell for now. Bye.